Everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. If you want to just introduce yourself in the chat, go ahead. Let everyone know. It's good to know from which part of the country are you joining into.
So I'm from Gurgaon near Delhi. So here winter has set in. So it's pretty cold early mornings and late nights. And during the day it's warm. So there's a huge difference in temperature day and night. So and the pollution, as usual, every winter the pollution is royally in. So we are in a very severe air quality severe zone right now. So it's showing in my voice as well. So I'm very allergic to this, and it immediately affects my voice, and my eyes are watering, and all of that has started. So I guess the rest of the country is lucky that way, not so polluted, I think.
Yeah, you have some, you don't have some. Bombay is pretty hot right now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's getting very hot. The mornings and evenings are slightly better, but otherwise very hot. And how's Coimbatore? How's the weather in Coimbatore?
Who is in Coimbatore?
Madurai.
Sorry, Madurai.
Madurai weather is pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our weather is almost like tropical, so we've been hottest.
See,
The hot is cold. What is hot for will be pleasant for you.
Great. So we take about 2 minutes before we start as everyone's joining in.
Good evening, Sushma.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah. So I think it's exactly 4:30, and let's start. So once again, very warm welcome to this Saturday afternoon's community of practice session. It is really heartening that, as educators, it shows our passion that on a Saturday afternoon, we don't mind sacrificing our leisure time to be again together and to kind of share, help each other understand different issues, what works for us and what's difficult for us, and come on, kind of, get ideas so that we take back to implement in our own schools. So I'm Jayashree Iyer, and I have been in education for nearly, say, 30 years now. And I have worked in different schools, affiliated to different kinds of boards across the country. And the last tenure that I had was about for about 12 to 13 years in the Heritage Experiential Learning School in Gurgaon. And I was in the leadership team. I was heading the middle school. till about 2 years back. And after that, I thought the logical next step was to kind of get associated with Adhyayan and learn from across the country. So with Adhyayan, I've gone to different schools all over the country, all in all different states, kind of doing school reviews and also helping in school improvement journey. And with me today, I have Kavita, who is our founder and of Adhyayan. And also we have Neha, who is the director in Adhyayan. And of course, we have Annette. Annette is like the backbone. She assists us for all that we do. So even today, she's been working at the back end so that this has been possible for us. So, and a little about this community of practice session itself. About 6 months back, when the pandemic kind of threw us into the deep seas, we had no choice but to look at alternate ways of running our school, of alternate ways to see how our students continue to learn. And when we did that, it was a crisis. We realized it was a crisis where none of us have the answers. We had a lot of questions, but we did not have answers because this was unprecedented. And we've not been trained or we've not practiced teaching or leading in such kind of a crisis. So it is, we must accept that we don't have answers. We can't pretend to and say that we have the answers for these. So the only thing is for us to all get together and talk, share, question, and deliberate on issues, collaborate on very important aspects of running of schools, and then come up with solutions. And that's how this platform was created. So we thought Adhyayan thought that the best way in such a kind of a scenario is to create a platform where we can have leaders coming in, and then we deliberate on issues. We talk to each other about what has worked well, what has not worked, what are the challenges, and then put our heads together and come up with solutions. And then try it and then come back and say that this has worked or this has not worked. So that is how this community of practice itself has come up. And every fortnight on a Saturday afternoon, we come together, and we've had several sessions in the last 3 or 4 months when we had experts from even outside, from the US and from Canada, having come and spoken to us about their experiences, and also a lot of leaders from within the country also have come and shared. So when you share that something is really happening well, or a success story that's happened in your school, what we can do is probably create a platform for you during one of our community of practice sessions, so that you can talk and share it with a larger group. And that's how today we have 3 schools with us today, and whose stories we will be listening to. We have Parveen from Somaya School, and then we have Shubhankar from the Barefoot Foundation, and we have Vijay Kumari and Rajesh from Jain Vidyalaya. So we will kind of get to know them a little better a little later on. And about what topics do we talk about in this community of practice, we want your suggestions. Please feel free to tell us what you want for our future sessions. And what are some of the things that we can kind of deliberate on, or call people if you want something from those fields, so that we can listen to them about what are the best practices in those fields. And again, talking about the uncertainty that we are in today. So during a crisis like this, when we have no answers, what does one do? It's all right to say that we don't have answers, but right now it looks like it's a never-ending journey, with the coronavirus kind of really surging and soaring all over the world, and even in our own country, in different states, we see cases rising, and it looks like there is no quick return to normal right now. And we have risen to the challenge till now, and we have to rise to the challenge. But what do we do in such case of a prolonged period of uncertainty? And we are also thinking of reopening schools slowly. So there again, we have different kinds of challenges. So there have been constantly, challenges coming one after another. So what does leadership look like at this kind of an uncertain period? So that is something that we need to really think of as leaders. So that is why, this topic is, we thought, was something where we can kind of have leaders talk, think, reflect, and see what is it that has worked for us as leaders, what is it that we can learn from others, and which has worked in other schools. So that's how today we are here to talk about leadership during times of uncertainty. And before we move on, so I think it's good to now kind of um, pause a little and think about the last few months and see what is it as a leader, what is that quality as a leader that I have been able to exhibit, and what is the evidence that I have indeed really exhibited that quality. So let's take about, say, half a minute, pause, and think what is the leadership quality that I have exhibited in the past months, and what is the evidence for this. So when you're ready, I would invite one or maybe two people to share. You can unmute yourself and share briefly. And for the others, if you could share on the chat. Yeah, if you're ready. Please feel free to unmute yourself and talk about anything that has worked for you as a leader, that you did, that you think as a leader has worked for you in your school or in your organization. Can we have others write on the chat, please?
So we have one which is being adaptive and flexible, building capacity. Oh, lots of stuff.
Lovely. Yeah. Okay. Building capacity among others. Communicating often and effectively with the team. Yes, communication. And being open to all ideas from all quarters. Okay. Yeah, embracing technology because that's the need of the hour. Reflected on where I am and what we need to do to respond to the situation. Yes, it's about responding to situation. So we do have challenges. We don't have answers to challenges. It's about how much of strength we have to forge ahead and how we respond to the situation. Yes. Capacity building and being more patient. Wonderful. I think, so it is important for us to kind of see that, you might not think of it as whether it's going to work or not, but actually whatever you think is going to work, you just go ahead and try it rather than just kind of not doing anything at all. So it might not work, doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, then you look at something else that will work. So I think that's the thing I'm getting from the dynamic challenges and prepare all the time. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. So now let's again reflect on what has been tough for us. Okay. You've tried doing all of this, but I'm sure there have been a lot of things that were really tough. So we have Annette, who's created a poll for us. I request Annette to administer the poll. So there are 6 options. You can choose multiple options.
Is everyone able to see the poll?
Yeah.
Yes, great.
Somebody is...
Yeah, so we have 23 out of 31 who have responded to the poll.
Yeah, and I don't think there's going to be more responses because it stopped for quite some time. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you share the results?
The results are, I think, responding to constantly changing circumstances as an overwhelming 65%. So yes, it's been that way really tough because there have been mini challenges, a series of mini challenges, one after another. So then we have about 39% and 43%, quite close. 39 is saying adapting quickly to find ways to operate was a little tough. Providing relevant support and clarifying the goals to all stakeholders was also tough. And then we have about 35% each for motivating and building emotional resilience and managing my own anxieties. So yes, so as a leader, probably we have to do all of these, and certainly yes, it's tough. But as I said earlier, it's about, I think, doing something rather than not doing at all, and then seeing if it's working or not, and maybe then again doing course correction if it's not working. So I think that is probably the way to do. And from history we've learned about something like this from leaders. So let's now listen to some stories of 3 schools, of the other schools. They are here today. So first I would invite Miss Parveen, to talk to us about Somaya School and a little bit about Miss Parveen. She's been in the field of education for nearly 20 years now, and she's been associated with Adhyayan also for quite some years. And her school, Somaya School, is one of our partner schools. And Parveen has been a lead assessor. She's traveled all over the country and did quite a few school reviews. And she's also a mentor and a coach for teachers, and her expertise lies in conducting professional development for teachers. So I think I can go on about you, Parveen, but
You're being very kind, Jayashree.
so a quick, if you could just tell a few lines about the background of your school and then take us through your story about what you've been doing in the last 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree. Good evening, everybody. I'm Parveen Sheikh. I'm the principal of Somaya School. Our school started in 2012. It's a CBSE school in Mumbai, and our clienteles are middle to upper middle class parents and children. And we take pride in being a CBSE school with a difference, because CBSE doesn't tell you how to deliver the methodology. So we go all out and be as creative, as out of the box as possible. And as a school, we really focus on all-round development of the children, not just writing it in a brochure or on website, but we actually try and do all those things. So like everyone else, we are in the lockdown, the school is shut. And while this corona thing was spreading, I remember, because today's session, I had to go back and think what happened, because last 7 months seem so long, and this seems like so normal, and this seems like the way we have been for last so many months. And I remember that all the other schools around our school were shutting down in Mumbai. And there was a lot of pressure for us to close down. But we gauged the locality. There were no cases of corona. Children were also fine, safe. and our exams were going on. So we pulled it a little because we wanted to be ready once we shut down. We wanted our teams to be ready. And while our exams were going on, I remember telling my team that please take whatever you need to take from school to work from home. So teachers have taken their laptops. So that's why we were buying a little more time rather than just shutting down and running home. And because there was a lot of panic at that time in Mumbai, and people were reacting rather than responding to situation. So, and meanwhile, we were also anticipating that the schools are going to shut down. So we had started some amount of training, not very large trainings. I remember one of my teacher had done training on how to create videos and edit videos in case we had to upload videos online, and some little very tiny bit training on how to use online teaching methods was done. And I also remember we are one of the few schools which made the online teaching transition very early. So we shut down on 18th March, but on 24th March, we started online classes for grade 12th. And on 26th March, we started online classes for grade 10. The reason being why we were able to make such a quick transition, I would say, is that all of us believed together that it is important that children's learning should continue. And we were all on the same page. In fact, more than me, my teachers were willing, ready, and able. They said, no, ma'am, we can't let so much time elapse and children not doing anything. So all of us were on the same page as far as why was concerned. So we didn't jump the bandwagon of online schooling only because other schools were doing it. There was a very, very realistic reason where all of us felt that I think we are ready. We can try it out with grown-up children, the older children. And that's how we started our online classes for 12th and grade 10th. And you know what, when I look back and assess the scenario, I think none of us were prepared for it. With all my qualification and all my experience, I think nobody had told me what a pandemic looks like, how serious it is, how long it is going to last, how people are going to react to it, not just in terms of their health, but also emotionally and socially. But what has rescued our school and our team and helped us to go ahead is all the work that we put in the previous years. So as a school, we have very strongly believed in professional development of our teachers. We have believed in developing a culture, working on a culture which is very conducive to learning, to growth. And I would give that credit to Dhyan also for doing so many audits and reminding us where we are lagging and where we need to really up ourselves and work towards it. And, you know, learning those ideas, what best practices look like. And as a result, I think we were continuously this is our 9th year, last 8 years we have been working on a team. So that culture of learning was already there. We consider ourselves as an organization which is learning. And I personally believe that if an individual teacher learns, the organization learns. If an individual teacher grows, the organization grows. So we have been learning collectively, individually. So learning was not an issue at all. It was not like a school which was stagnant and we had to really shake the teachers out of their slumber, nothing of that sort. So when this idea was put forward that we need to learn something new to be able to conduct classes online, I think my team was excited. I saw that excitement and motivation. And I personally feel that a crisis is a very true test of your team. Either it breaks your team completely or you will see a completely new transformation of your team. And in my team, I think the excitement was so high. And that was also the time when it was very stressful, no maids at home. So we were working from home and working at home. Believe me, last 7 months of working online and with all the difficulties, not a single team member has complained because that excitement of trying out something new was so high, that inner motivation was so high that all I had to do was organize it a little, push it a little. And I also in this period of time discovered so much more talent that I would have discovered in normal scenario. I discovered people quietly taking up leadership roles without any positions or power. They were supporting each other. I found new mentors. I found new trainers. And all that was happening in a very short time. And that's what let us get ready for online teaching and learning. So we considered ourselves new to the whole thing. We conducted demo classes. And some senior teachers would observe demo classes of the junior teachers and each one supporting each other. So I think this is, I would consider the best time of learning for us. And we all saw it as the best time for learning. And as a result, we were able to do it clearly. Other than that, we also felt over a period of time, last 8 years, we have gradually allowed people to have a voice of their own. And that has really guided us in this crisis, because we didn't know whether we are on the right track. What we are doing is reaching our audience, our stakeholders. So over a period of time, we realized we are a community of learners where everybody speaks their mind. My teachers have the freedom to give suggestion, to go against a decision which is taken with a very valid reason for it. We have also given that voice to our students and parents, and that does not happen overnight. So we were reaping the benefit of all that work that we had done last so many years in a situation of crisis like this. As a school, we decided we have to take feedback regularly if we want to know whether we need to change our strategies or no. So we were sending forms to parents. Early on, I took feedback from my students of grade 12. And believe me, your students give you the best feedback. And based on their feedback, they give such candid, constructive feedback. And I did that feedback session after, I think, the whole of April. And based on that feedback, I think that has guided our planning for other grades very, very nicely. So continuous feedback from parents, reflection meetings with teachers, feedback from my students has helped us to take right steps. So we are doing things, then we are pausing, reflecting, checking where we are and going ahead. Also, initially we were a little skeptical what to tell parents, how much to reveal, because we were clueless and no school wants to show that they are fragile and they don't know, they don't have a very long-term plan. And we obviously did not have a very long-term plan. But sooner we realized it is better to even share your strategic intent than to keep quiet. So we kept sharing, and there was revolt. There was the opposition was there. But I thought the trust that we had created with parent community allowed them to speak their mind. And we were able to modify what time should the classes be, how long the classes should be. They are having difficulty with 2 children, sharing resources. All that information, as soon as the information started coming in, it started helping us to take better decisions as leaders and as team. Again, in all this fancy period, we were still hoping that we will be back in school in July. So all that energy was very high because July we are back. I don't know from where that optimism came, but we were, okay, we will be back in July. So all this while we were focusing only on academics, but July is here and nothing is changing. In fact, the scenario in Mumbai deteriorated. And then the realization came that we are in this for a long haul. This is not going away. We are going to be online for a much longer period. And that's when we started looking at this as an opportunity and not as a stopgap arrangement. And we realized that I think we can do so much more because now our universe has suddenly expanded. And we started adding more activities, events to school and trying to give children a more holistic experience. In fact, we did an entire literary festival online. We had people joining in from Sydney, all over India, all our assemblies. We had soldiers coming in, somebody in Bangalore, somebody in Bahrain. So we started looking at the whole situation differently. And believe me, it's my team which has taken the whole situation ahead. It is because of their motivation and enthusiasm that we could do the whole thing. So teaching opportunities were there. And again, we were somewhere, I don't know from where these ideas were coming, that maybe we will be back face to face in October. Nothing happening. And that's when we started saying that we have been teaching regularly. We have been conducting classes. How do we start assessing them? That's when thought about assessment started and nobody had any clue how to do assessment. I attended a lot of webinars, both international and national. People said, no, there is a lot of advancement in technology, but as far as assessment is concerned, nobody had a clue. So we devised our own ways and we found ways to do assessment which were age appropriate. And in fact, right now, all my students are undergoing very age appropriate assessment, which is the end of the term assessment, and they will be breaking for Diwali shortly. Now, what is the way ahead? We are hoping we come back to normal schooling, but again, like all our previous assumptions and hopes, it may not work. So as a school, the whole leadership team and all the teachers, we have worked on a reopening plan. And there are a lot of guidelines in all the other schools in UK, I think in Australia also schools have opened. So as far as the protocols are concerned, we are very clear and we are working towards it. Safety, security and all that is fine. But my question as a leader is, and I need some answers, and I'm sure in a community like this we'll find the answer. With all the best preparation that the school does, there will be some parents who will refuse to send their child to school. So we will have a divided community. Some parents who are sending the children to school, some want to continue online. How are we going to take that further? How much pressure will we put on our teachers? Our teachers are expected to do twice the same class, once physically and once online. That's one question in my mind. Though we are going to continue hybrid method of asynchronous, synchronous, as well as face-to-face classes. Another question in my mind is, we are assuming that children will just run back to school. How much of truth is in that? I don't know. First of all, very young children have gotten so used to being at home, and they have both the parents at home attending to all their needs. The separation anxiety is going to be bigger. The transition is going to be far more difficult. The scenario with older children is even more difficult because they just roll out of bed and they are in school. They don't have to take bath. They don't have to wear a uniform. They don't have to wake up early to catch a bus. And I think the older students have started enjoying the benefit of online classes because it gives them a lot more control. There is a lot more flexibility. How are we going to bring them back to a brick and mortar classroom, which will have certain amount of restrictions and expectation? So how, as educators, as leaders, we are thinking of preparing for this scenario? And the same applies for teachers. How many teachers are willing to come back? How many families are willing to let their teachers or their partners come back to school? So that kind of readiness is something I think now I have begun working in my school, and I would need support from a community like that. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Yeah, thank you, Parveen. And I think very pertinent questions. I'm sure these questions are there in everybody's minds right now before we go on to, getting into physical schools. And yeah, but what I and I remember reading somewhere that there's nothing called extra information or over communicating, because what you do in a time of crisis is communicating. Doesn't matter even if you say something extra. So that's about being transparent, and that kind of gives a lot of confidence to stakeholders. Yeah, so I saw that coming across. Thank you so much for sharing. So we will have Shubhankar next. Neha?
Yes, Shubhankar, yes, you're going to be on spotlight, Shubhankar, for everyone. So very happy to introduce Shubhankar Paul. He is a Teach for India fellow and has been an assistant school leader. I think that's the first time we met, where we had done the school review in his school, and from there on, I think there was no looking back as far as the association with Adyan was concerned, where Shubhankar went on to become an assessor also with us and have gone to different schools. He started his own organization called as Lantern Sports, which again was, he set it up to support the other schools, and especially working with schools in the low socioeconomic range. And I think Shubhankar will tell us a little more that now Lantern Sports is renamed or merged with Barefoot Foundation. And so very happy, Shubhankar, to have you here, and would love to hear from you, especially about a different segment that you're working with from what we've just heard from Parveen. And so over to you, Shubhankar.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Neha, for that lovely introduction. So, hi everyone, I'm Shubhankar, and so right now, as Neha mentioned, I'm the co-founder and director of Barefoot Edu Foundation. So, which as a not-for-profit working with the school structures, like we work with schools in Maharashtra and also Anganwadis in Jaipur and Haryana. So, I think just to come to the point, like about sharing. About the student learnings in the low-income background, socio-economically challenged backgrounds. I think the challenges in terms of like how Parveen had mentioned before, like it's not that the challenges are different, but I think the context from which the challenges come is different. So, and I think there was a lot of learning from my end and a lot of validation from my end, like when Parveen was sharing that what she had done or what the team was able to do. So I was like, okay, this is a challenge which even we also responded, but the challenge didn't come up in this way. It came up maybe in a different way, but this is how we also responded. And I think like just the same way, like how Parveen School, Somaya School also started like very, I mean, as soon as like the lockdown set in a very few days. So same way, like we were also thinking, okay, maybe this is only for the high income schools. Like initially our thought was like, it's just, there was lockdown for 21 days and schools will reopen. And for now, like maybe we can just send some worksheets and just make sure that exams are anyway about to come after that, like exams are supposed to happen. So maybe send them revision materials, send them some videos or some worksheets that they can revise. And then again, from 15th of April, we'll be back. Like that was the initial thought. But then like gradually when we saw that the cases rising up and like the more information, more knowledge kept on coming in. And then we also started seeing like how, I mean, I attended one of Adhayan's like webinar, like which was way back in the first week of April or the last week of March. And in that, like even I invited my school principal who, the partner school, I invited him to also join in. And then we both of us attended and then we thought, okay, this is happening. And it was the same kind of feeling. And when Parveen was talking, it was like a deja vu kind of Mickey in a webinar, like 8 months back, like I also sat and heard this and thought, okay, this is the same challenge. Maybe like the how it is coming up is different, but then like the solution can be implemented there itself. Like in terms of making a staggered timetable. Like one problem was ki, like they would have only one device in the house and they might have 2-3 children, so that would be a problem. So we couldn't have like the classes at the same time. So it had to be a staggered timetable. And so these are kind of things like it's an example of a challenge that we face, in same way like other schools dealt with, we also dealt with it. So I think what I would say in terms of the learnings from our end, like as in terms of like when we stopped and reflected, okay, how did we respond, and like could we have done something better, like what was it, and like what are I mean the next steps from now on. So I think one thing that we have really seen, and which is again very similar to what Parveen shared, like what we have been able to do right now, a lot of foundational things had been done before, like in the last 2.5 years. Like a lot of things had been done before. So for example, when I started as an ASL in 2017, we had the Adhayan review and we got to know what a good school looks like and the certain things that need to be in place in terms of teaching and learning, leadership, or like the curriculum, right? So the school leaders actually got to know what good looked like what was idea of excellent education. Till then, they had this feeling only in the Teach for India classroom, because the fellows are super dedicated and they would come for 2 years and they will give it all. Only those classrooms will provide good results, but the rest of the school will be as it is and the learning outcomes will be not as great. So I think for the first time they started imagining, like in 2017, okay, this is a laid out plan in front of me. If I follow this checklist, if I follow this certain structures that I need to do, there's a plan which has been made for me. If I follow this, I can see some light at the end of the tunnel. So I think that was the belief that the school leaders first, I think that having that belief that, okay, the school can have transformational outcomes. So that was like way back in 2017, which was said. And then over the years, like how we have worked with them, how we have got the teachers invested, like also like a lot depended on the school principal. For example, the school leaders, for them, so they are mostly the owners of the school, and like that way, not all of them have that much of experience or like the qualification required to actually lead an institution. So in terms of the management style, or in terms of the their exposure to educational policies, or like how they can strategize for a school, that all like needed certain I mean support from like outside, and that is where we stepped in. And also like what I felt was there was lack of ownership initially when I had joined like way back in 2017. Like everybody was just like, okay, this I have been told to do this, I'll do this, but then I'll not do one thing extra from this. Like this was the general attitude of the teachers, or like even the supervisors. And the principal was, okay, fine, like as long as these things are done, my documentation is done, like I'll be happy with whatever is happening in school, like at least to some point, to some extent. So I think to change his attitude, like this started happening like 3-4 years, I mean I think 2.5-3 years back. And that is what the results we see now. Like, so right now what we had was, the few things I would like to highlight is like extended leadership team. So right now it's not the school leader who is alone taking the decisions, earlier, which used to be like this owner or the trustees, and they would make the decision, and they would then tell the rest of the team to follow. So right now there is, at least for the teaching and learning part, there is an extended leadership team which is comprised of the senior teachers or like some of the junior teachers also, but who are passionate and who want to like take up some projects in this internally in the school. So they are a part of the extended leadership team, and whatever sort of discussions or decisions are being made, it's done democratically. The school, so it's taken time. It's not that it happened all like in just in one go. So earlier, even when we had these meetings, it would be mostly the school leader would be sharing his thoughts, and then the rest will just follow. But now, like I think with over time, we have been able to create that culture, like where like they, I mean, we take feedback from the teachers, we take feedback from the students, we take feedback from the parents, like, and we see like how things are, how people are perceiving. At the end, like we are sort of like the end service. I mean, our the people we are servicing are the children. So if they are not benefited, if the parents who are paying for that service is not benefited, or they have some like suggestions, we're not following that. I think that is one mindset shift we were able to do, and because of that, like the result that we see are the staggered timetable. The teachers who are willing to teach from morning, like maybe some of them are willing to teach at morning 8:30. Like as you said, like they had to also manage the family and still come and teach online. So some of the classes would be at 8:30, some of the classes would be at evening 5:30, 6:30. So that way they were available throughout the day. So they were open to all this changes in the timetable. Then one other thing is like which came as a solution from the teachers group only was having the PTM at night. So there was the section of children that we sort of support. So their parents, once the lockdown was relaxed in June, they started going out to work. So they are mostly daily wage earners, and they didn't have the luxury of working from home. So they had to go out to work. And when that happened was their phones would be taken, they would take the phones away, and then the student would not have the phone till the end of the day. So then we thought, okay, what will be a solution for this? Like, can we get to know what time the parents would be there, or can we then think of some other alternative way, like by sending them worksheets or videos? So that way, like to just know all that, to have this communication with the parents, we started. We had the first PTM at night at 9 o'clock in the evening. Like, so that was when most of the parents would come back from work. So this flexibility, and this is something which was not like enforced by the school leader, but this came from like the teachers themselves. We want to reach out to the parents, because right now what we see is like we used to have like about 60% of the students coming in. Right now we are only having 30% of the students coming in. We need to improve the attendance. So let's have this. So this was one of the, I think, biggest successes, or like sort of validations of that what we have been working is actually like the leadership that we wanted to develop in people. Like, so the people are not dependent on like one leader. It's a chain of leaders who are taking the school forward. Because even in my experience with working in these schools, I've realized that one person or one organization or someone coming from outside is not enough to sort of lead the transformation. It has to be a group of leaders, and because in the community what we have seen is so many diverse interlinked challenges are there, and for that to make it sustainable, to make sure that it goes on, it passes a test of time, like we needed a movement of leaders. And that is when we thought of empowering this extended leadership team. Apart from that, what this team did was they, as I said, like they did take student surveys. So they did take student feedback. They would call the parents and the students and ask. Also, the Google form would be there, but apart from that, they would just generally call them and ask for qualitative feedback. And again, this is something which came up from the student, from the teachers themselves, because this was a response in one of the meetings that we were having. So we have every week sharing circles where whatever has happened throughout the week, we sort of share some pictures or some videos. We appreciate people, and also the teachers share like individuals' successes and challenges. So in one of that, it came up like this: attendance is really decreasing, and what can be done in that regards. So then like we thought of, okay, we'll just do calls and just ask students how they're doing and what problem do they have. And in that, what came up was so although like the lockdown had relaxed, but still a lot of children had problems of ration at home. So we or like they didn't have the smartphones at home, because again, their parents would go out to work, and they would not maybe return at very late in the night. So then we had to get in and then fundraise for the resources, or like the tablets and all. So at least unless we know what the problem is, like we would be still assuming ki, okay, maybe this is the problem. So actually, like I didn't expect, but then the teachers were ready with the numbers ki out of the 60 students, 40 are coming online every day. 20 of them they don't have phones, or they have phones, but then like their parents come only way back at night. So that way that way, like that need was I mean, understood. And also in terms of like what I would say, like another success story would be like how the principals or the school leaders have sort of taken up a more responsibility. So in terms of like how we were working with them, like in the past 2.5, 3 years, it was more on school management, more on setting school structures. But right now, what we have seen in the past 6-7 months is how they have went beyond that and become a leader for the community. Like for example, providing ration kits to the like collaborating with other NGOs, or like raising funds to provide ration kits to the students' families, or like providing tablets. So it was earlier, if we had talked about this, the principals would have maybe, I don't know, like they would have just said, are we supposed to do everything? Like, I mean, their attitude would not be such like a problem solver. But I think now, like, I mean, what I've seen now, like it was like very heartwarming to see all like they in fact actually got other principals also in the same region. Like 6 of them got together, and we collaboratively raised funds, and then about we sort of provided ration kits to about 3,000 families, some of them multiple times. Till like we have also been collaborating now to gather smartphones, so that we can provide to this or like refurbished phones, old used phones, so that we can provide to the students who don't have it. So that list is there. So I think that kind of leadership, okay, we know ki this is a problem and we adapting every day. So that is another victory story I would like to share. The other thing is the openness that the teachers share. I think that is something which Parveen also shared. Their eagerness to learn, like whatever new was, either it was like presentation, learning how to make presentations, learning Canva. So we did collaborate with some organization who would teach them Canva, and then Google Forms and presentations. So that eagerness to learn, okay. And initially they were like, I mean, will the school restart? Then how will we use it? So they were still thinking. When we told like, you can use it in a normal classroom also. We have projectors, we'll provide that. And they were like, okay, fine, like let's start it. Like we'll find you. I mean, if you have a skill, so we will find ways to use it. And that was another like nice line I remember from one of the meetings. Okay, let's start. If we get the skill, we'll know how to use it wherever there's opportunity. We'll use it. I think that openness, that culture shift. I think, but even Parveen was mentioning that the positive culture, the culture of achievement, we will do something. Even if there is a problem, we'll find a way around it. So that is something which I would like to share. And yeah, and the question that I would have like to the community here is, like the problem that we have is the maximum attendance that we have been able to get is 60%. So the rest 40% are still at the villages, or even if they're in Mumbai, they don't have phones. We have been able to like provide phones to some students, but then still like there's a huge chunk which have been sort of deprived of this online education. So when they come back, so like how is that gap going to be bridged? Like we are anyway started thinking, like the school leaders, senior teachers, we have already started thinking can we have a starter kit like for each age group? Can we have a bridge the gap course kind of a thing? So we do an assessment, and then we see where the students are like in terms of the foundational literacy and numeracy, and then like provide next curriculum material to them. But then in terms of like how it would look like in terms of execution, will we have so much of like resources, teachers available to do such differentiation? I'm not sure. So there are a lot of questions in my head, and like would be happy if I get some answers, some like inspiration from this group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shubhankar. Really inspiring and incredible, I think, because the change in mind shift and that really takes time, and it was really heartwarming to listen to that. And also what came across very strongly was how you reap the benefit of the culture that was already you've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years, which also came across very strongly when Parveen shared. So I think culture of learning and resilience, building which had already started 2-3 years back, I think kind of paid off. So thank you, very inspiring story. So we will let's now listen to Jain Vidyalaya. We have Vijay Kumari, who's the principal, and we have Rajesh Vora, who's the admin head. So they will introduce themselves. They will tell you a little more about their own school and about themselves before they share with us their journey in the last 6 months.
Thank you, Jayashree ma'am. Hello, Adhyayan team. All a pleasant evening from Rajesh and Vijay Kumari ma'am here from Madurai, way down south, to all of you spread all over India, might be abroad also. So I'll introduce Vijay Kumari ma'am. She is our principal. She's been with Jain Vidyalaya for the last 17 years, and she's a very able administrator, a very meticulous planner, and she's taken our school from strength to strength. So we have a very able leader in Mrs. Vijay Kumari. As for me, I'm come back to my roots in the sense that this is a Guju community here down south. We started the school in the year 79. We are a 40-year-old organization. And whereas the CBSE, we started in 2015. So we are 5 years old. So I'm a product of the earlier school. So I'm come back to the school where I studied, and also the community which handles. So I'm management representative, and now I head both these schools. We have 2 schools here. So I look after the day-to-day running of both the schools. So this is from us as Team Jain Vidyalaya. As for this, before starting on our journey, our story, I would like to thank Parveen ma'am and Shubhankar for their wonderful stories of sharing and resilience and tenacity with which they have faced this extraordinary situation. And each of us are inspiring each other. And I'll just take a minute to go back to the days of April, where we started participating in this Adhyayan's, suddenly all out of the blue. I mean, we started that, okay, let's see. And in those days of lockdown, I would like to tell Neha, Kavita ma'am, and all of you at Team Adhyayan, the one bright spot in those days of lockdown was the Adhyayan meeting, which we had every week. I'm not kidding. It's really like, we were locked up in our houses for throughout the time which started off with 21, then another 20, and God knows how many extensions we got. And all of us meeting, and even though we did start the online classes somewhere midway, but this is something which we looked forward and something we could lean on to. This is a thing. So I just wanted to share. Okay. Now, as far as our story is concerned, Suganya ma'am, can you just?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So our journey here for this pandemic was not neither very challenging nor very easy. It was something like what Parveen ma'am and what Shubhankar shared. Because of the leadership which we have built over the years, we were able to overcome all these challenges which we faced. Like the first challenge we faced was not even about, we didn't think about the devices, about students, about anything. Our management was very particular about this, that if at all we get into this online classes and stuff, our teachers equipped. And that time in the beginning, which we saw that there were lots of happenings in the online platform, especially Zoom. So the safety aspect, which was a big question mark that time. So should we get into all that? And also we were aware that kids are much more tech savvy than the teachers. It's a no-brainer for all of us, right? So will kids create a problem for the teachers? That is what was actually our concern rather than anything else. So it was a very cautious start. We didn't start off in March or something. We started somewhere in mid-April that, okay, we came at a decision quite late, going by many schools which should have started off in March. So we were very cautious about it, and we were okay. So that we had to, Vijay Kumari ma'am and I, we had to convince our management, no, we will look into all this, we will address all these concerns. Let us start. We cannot waste time. We don't know. We didn't have the answers of how long or whatever is going to happen. Let us start with the online classes for the time being. Next, ma'am. So what we did was we had a initial discussion about how we'll go about. So probably that time Zoom was what was doing the rounds, and we were not very familiar with the Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, which we came to know only after these meetings in Adhyayan. Earlier, only Zoom we were aware of, and we started off just like many other schools. We also started off with Zoom. So we had the timetable and safety protocols, all these things we the committee from the management, we all of us, including the principal, and all of us sat together. We worked out on all these things. How shall we go about doing this? And then we came. We just started off just with we'll start with the higher classes. Then we will go for the other classes. That is a kind of what we had in the mind frame, that we will start off with higher classes, which shouldn't be a problem. And moreover, the board going classes need a head start. They need a long time for them to cover that. Next, Subina. Okay, I think Vijay Kumari ma'am will take over from here, because it's her domain. She will take care.
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. So then, as Rajesh sir said, we had a lot of discussion session within us with our teachers, coordinators. So then we made up our mind, we can do a better job. So as sir said, we convinced our management, because they were continuously telling others are doing, so for that we should not do something. So we have to be very clear in what we are doing. That was the one constant message from our management. Then we were ready for everything internally. So before starting the session for our students, what we did is, among ourselves with the teachers, we had a demo session. So we thought this would help us. So whatever shortcomings we are facing, so we will be able to address. Then after everything, all this analysis, then we have drafted a very clear communication to parents, because what they should be ready with, what kind of device should be ready for them. So everything was very clearly mentioned, and we have sent it through circular. Because before that, when lockdown was announced, so we didn't want to have the gap. So through this WhatsApp group, our teachers were communicating whatever has been learned, kind of a recap they were doing. So it was very easy for us to have a start here. Then all clear instruction has been given through circular. Then we also told them what internet connection they should have, what kind of devices they should have. Everything we have communicated. Then after that, what we did was, first we started with the higher class. First we'll start with the 12th standard. Then we started with the 12th standard. So very easily students adapted for this online education. And when we started, we continuously, I used to observe the class, and Rajesh sir also will observe the class. Then immediately we will call teachers, because at that time we were at home and we were not able to meet each other. So again, we will get connected through this Zoom call or WhatsApp con call, something like that. We used to communicate to teachers what was pros and cons, or plus and minus of their teaching, everything. So teachers were also like, they started exploring. So like that, we have started with a higher class. Then slowly we started for the next class, 10th standard. So like that, it was going on, and parents were also very happy about it. That is how we have started. Then slowly we brought this online classes to other classes, lower classes. So there, what happened? These teachers, higher class teachers, they had a demo session for other teachers. So they would have experienced something based on that, do's and don'ts, what has to be done, what should not be done. Like that, they had a demo session. So it was like a peer learning. They were teaching each other. That is how it was started. Then after that, we had for our primary classes in mid-June. And those teachers, primary teachers are always enthusiastic. They wanted to try with the different methods, and among themselves with their colleagues, they had demo classes. Then they have started. Then finally we started for the KG session. So here the very big challenge for KG teachers was in front of students, you can dance, you can do this, everything can be done. But here this is kind of artificial, you have to smile, you have to speak. It was a nightmare for them. How to act in front of the camera. That was a very big challenge for them. Then finally, they also have come to the mindset, we don't know how long this is going to continue. So then slowly, they also adapted to this. And initially what we did was like, when they made this video lessons, they were first checking with each other's video. So let me check your video, you check mine. So that whatever it is, we will share our plus and minus, then we will refine it. Then finally, it will come to us coordinators, and I will also check. Now it is like they are like, they don't want any help on their own. They are able to do very nicely. They are using different apps, and it's going good for KG students also. Next slide, Sukanya. So then after that, once we have started for everybody, then we thought somewhere we have to pass. We have to get feedback from our parents. So then what we did, first I have started with a small group, selected parents, like representatives. I called from each class or section like that. Then I met, because sometimes when teachers are there, they may hesitate to tell how classes were going on like that. So like that, I started meeting parents, so got the inputs from them. And then I came to know they're all very happy. Your teachers are doing a very good job, all that. Really, it was very nice to hear from all the parents. And slowly what we so during this meeting also, I got some feedback from parents, like, because how when we started in the beginning, it is from 9:30 till 3:30. Actually, we had 4 periods. In between, we gave them half an hour break. But later, when we spoke to the parents, what they were telling, children are always sitting with their devices. They don't come out of the room. So if it is completed within this particular time, maybe in the morning alone, if they have classes, afternoon at least they will have some physical activity. So we felt that that will be good. Like that, and we reduce the break time. And within this morning time itself, we have planned our schedule. Then revised the schedule was sent to parents. So then later, again, when we met parents, so they were very happy about this revised schedule. That is one thing. So we were very much open to this parents' suggestion. Whatever small things we heard from parents, we were trying to implement, whichever was good, like that. Then we also started our assessment for primary classes, like covering all skills, LSRW, like that. Because we wanted to know how far this teaching learning has happened, what we should improve, what is lacking. So we thought somewhere we have to check. So slowly we have started, and we also learned different apps through which or methods by which we can check students' performance. So that we have done. And after that, we were able to improvise where we can little strengthen our ways of doing. Like that we have started. That is one part. And simultaneously, what we did apart from this academics, we have so many activities in our school. We are teaching children this Leader in Me, that is 7 Habits of Stephen Covey. So that also we have started weekly 1 period. So what we thought, this is a very nice time. We can teach for the whole family, like things in priority, win-win, like all 7 habits. So we thought we'll teach for the whole family. So that was also very useful. And then other activities, we have 21 CCA activities, 10 fine arts and 11 physical activity. So these CCA teachers also had a demo session. So whatever is possible through online mode, that also we tried, and we taught all this. We started doing this physical activities, and we children started enjoying all this. And we also have image minds. So there we have set of syllabus. For example, for standard means they'll be learning shapes. Then from that, first standard they will have some coloring. Then next with the shapes, how will they create some other design? Then freehand drawing, like that we have photography, like that grade wise we have syllabus. So all that we have started. Initially what we did, everything through like a PowerPoint we sent it to students, because within this time we were not able to complete. Then later when we got the feedback from parents, instead of sending through like video lessons, this image means instead of video lessons, if you send it like if you have on online classes, this will be of great use. So this is what we heard from parents. So then again we introduced, somewhere we were able to adjust, and we introduced this live classes for this primary, and for higher classes this is not a problem. Whatever instruction is being given, they were able to do that. Also for us successful. And as others said, we also felt like gradually students' attendance was going down. Then somewhere we have to find out why it is going down. Then when we spoke to parents, we came to know kind of tiredness, health issues, all that, boredom also started creating. Then we thought we have to go for some different programs. Then with experts, we conducted separately programs for parents and for teachers, then for students. So that was also like motivating everybody, all of us, not only students and teachers as well. So like that, we had some programs. This is how we started, and now we are able to do everything like regular classes, how things are going on. So we are able to match with everything. Next is slide.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
Neha ma'am.
Yes, because Rajesh sir will continue.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Neha ma'am, I think we have exceeded the time, so I'll just quick slides. We'll just go through it. I mean, just everybody can just read that. We had lots of teacher enrichment programs. One was teachers attended the Adhyayans, and then the other capacity building programs by the CBSE, then the local Sahodaya, and then we had experts teaching our teachers. We had exclusive programs for teachers. Teacher training is something which we take it. We constantly do that constantly. Next slide, ma'am. Okay, so we also went into all these protocols which we had to face that. Okay, our school, we gave face masks to all the teaching, non-teaching staff. Then we also gave them medicines like that homeopathic medicines which were in the news, and which even it was. So we gave that to all the teachers, and I mean all the staff. We have taken out insurance for all the staff, COVID insurance for the entire school, all the staff, teaching and non-teaching staff. We have taken that, and then we also have COVID awareness programs for exclusively for the non-teaching staff. Yeah. Next slide, ma'am. Okay. We also, all the laptops, our school, we don't have desktops, we have laptops. So which came in very handy, which we gave it to the teachers to take from their classrooms. And we had the entire school enabled, Wi-Fi enabled right now. I mean, a few months back, we had it entire school Wi-Fi so that the teachers can use the laptops in the comfort of the classrooms. And our teachers, after the lockdown was over, our teachers came to school, and they started from school they can. So they don't have the problem of connectivity or anything of that sort. So we had a couple of high-speed internet lines enabled for us in the school, and with Wi-Fi facility. So I think, yes, ma'am. Okay, here, this is something very important for all the teachers. It gives them a kind of secure feeling. And I think it may sound pompous, but then when we see the scenario in the whole of the country, this does play a big role in their giving out their best. I think this is what our journey was. I think, thank you everyone for listening to us. Thank you, Team Adhyayan, for giving us this opportunity to share our journey with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh sir and Vijay Kumari ma'am. Again, I think that was again a very inspiring journey that you've shared with us. And yeah, what is really the highlight is, your staff being cared for. I think is again another very important leadership quality that a leader has to be really cognizant about. How much do our staff and our stakeholders feel cared for, so that they can give their best and they feel secure. I think that was an inspiring story, certainly. Over to you, Kavita.
Thanks, Jeshri. And because, I think that when you listen to absolutely amazing people talking about what they've thought and how they've dealt with issues, you can't, I mean, time seems like a bad idea. And maybe we should have had a longer time for this. But we always give you a takeaway at the end of the session. And so this is what I've just shared. I would have talked a little bit more about it, but maybe next time. This is a Harvard course. It's a blog that is there right now that I've shared, which might be interesting for you to look at in terms of what they say resilient leadership is defined by. And they talk about, how you need to reflect and assess your situation, constantly, continuously strive to learn and grow as a leader, be very purpose driven, and like Rajesh has identified, and I think Parveen and Shubhankar have been clear that it's about cultivating relationships. And so these four aspects of leadership being really strongly there for resilience. There is, by the way, a free course that you might want to do in the Harvard thing if you want to. I've also shared the link to that. That's an interesting one. It's the journey of Ernest Shackleton. Everybody knows he's the guy who actually his ship got grounded. But why don't you read the story? We'll talk about it another time, like again. Final 30 seconds is simply to say that this is going to be a series. I just want to be very clear that this group is meant for us. I think Jeshri outlined that very strongly, and I'm underlining it. It's meant for people to share with each other, because you can always get ideas from listening to each other. And I think that when we listen to you, we also know what we can do to come back and respond to you and your needs. But this is not meant as a this is, we're not here to be the expert to give anybody the solution. Everybody's context is so different. And that's why these stories are so powerful, because really you can pull from them, extract from them the principles, the first principles. And I think I heard distributed leadership. I heard cultivating a culture of continuous growth and development, a whole sense of being clear, planning properly before you actually move into doing something. So I think it's just really fantastic to hear this. And we would, like Harvard creates their little case studies, we want to create our case studies using all of your stories. So this is going to be a long journey with all of you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, and thanks to everybody who's been on this. Do we have a Google form for everyone to fill in?
Yes,
So
Kavita, we have a Padlet.
Yeah.
So I'll just
out and
Just shared it.
And
just shared it.
phenomenal storytelling. That's been brilliant. Thank you so much.
So there is this Padlet link on the chat put up. Please request you to go to that link.
And I think if there are any, questions that you would have wanted to ask, Parveen or Rajesh, Vijay Kumari, as well as Shubhankar, you could still put it on the chat or leave it on the Padlet. Yeah, as Kavita has also said, I mean, we will continue this, and we definitely can have them responding to it as well. Yeah, so we'll find a way of converging. Yes.
Hoping to see you again 2 weeks from now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavita, and thank you, Team Adhyayam.
Thank you, Parveen.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Team Adhyayam.
Yes, that's true, Neeta. And Neeta, you must have also heard that the initial days, I mean, you've really ended up inspiring a lot of people, right? Like having pooled in resources. I mean, all of us having, got together. I think that was wonderful. And it's so nice to actually look at that after 7 months and see where.
The
Yeah.
pandemic has brought the world together in more ways than one. One is that we've realized that everybody is in the same suit. No matter how advanced your country may seemingly be, everyone's struggling. And the second way is this way, in education, at least we're seeing now everybody, world. I mean, we've had, Adhyayan has been bringing so many fantastic resource people. Toddle, the other partner that our school works with,
Right.
been having these absolutely amazing webinars with people whom you would have never otherwise